Hello, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm so excited to be here with Jessica and Larkin. Just two moms, right? That's what
Yep,
you guys
that's
go by.
us.
Awesome, from California. So they're having their coffee right now, and I just had my lunch. So I love it. So anyway, I'm so excited to have you guys on. Obviously, you are mothers. You are doing some good in the world. You are impacting the future, which I love. So I'm just going to hand it over to you. If you guys could introduce yourselves, tell us a little bit about yourselves, and we'll kind of go from there.
Okay.
Cool. You want to go first?
Sure. So I'm Larkin, and I actually have a picture. This is my son, James. I just got his school picture this morning, and James and Annalise are our inspirations for what we do. James is 5 years old. He's fully included in his kinder or preschool class, and he'll be going into TK next year. James was born with Down syndrome and hearing loss, and what's neat about Jessica and I, we have two totally different stories about Down syndrome. So my story was a birth diagnosis. We found out at birth that James had Down syndrome, and it's been quite the adventure. My husband and I are both teachers, so it's completely changed our lives in every aspect. And my son has also had a lot of medical issues. So I'm currently on leave as a teacher. And, it happened to be perfect timing. James's medical issues he's getting better. And Jessica and I have been able to go around to different schools. So even though I'm on leave, I haven't left the classroom. Every week we've been in doing assemblies about inclusion and acceptance and talking about all sorts of diagnosis. So we talk about Down syndrome, obviously, but we also talk about blindness, autism, hearing loss, all sorts of stuff. And so it's been a roller coaster and really awesome. I was doing the math the other day. We've hit over 6,000 kids at 13 different schools. We've hit 7 different college classes in our area. So over 240 student college soon-to-be teachers talking about inclusion and just sort of telling our story.
Yeah. So I'm Jessica, and I'm a mom of 3. I don't have a picture of all of them, but this is Annalise. So this is our middle daughter. She's going to be turning 6 next week, and I also have an almost 8-year-old, and my little guy, today's his birthday. He's 3 today. I'm new to Sonoma County, so I'm from LA. I was working in special ed before I had my kids, so I always knew that was a population that I wanted to work with. I had a heart for kids with special needs. Little did I know that there was one in my future. And so once I had my first daughter, I actually stopped working, and so I haven't worked in the classroom since. But yeah, it's been an incredible ride. My daughter Annalise has been fully included since she started preschool. So she was actually the first student in our district in LA to be fully included in a preschool, and was also the first student at her school to be fully included with special needs. So she's kind of just been a pioneer, and we came up to Sonoma County thinking, things are going to be a bit easier. I don't know. I had this picture in my mind of they've got it up there. It's going to be so much easier. And I got here and realized that wasn't necessarily the case. So there was a bit of, advocating and just, standing my ground there. And, but I was desperate to kind of find my tribe and find my people. And actually Annalise's preschool teacher handed me a little Post-it note with some names of some moms. And she said, here, I think you get along with these moms really well. And so Larkin was one of those moms, and we had coffee one morning, and, the rest is kind of history. We did just a little presentation at James and Annalise's preschool. And then from there, began to get invited to different classrooms. And then that got to be a bit much to manage because, we have kids. And so we ended up doing, these assemblies, and it's just been really, really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we were just kind of shocked that there were so many people that wanted us to come and speak about it, you know? I didn't expect that.
And we've actually been booked already for 3 schools for next year, and more, are asking us to come. So it's really, we live in a great place that's really geared towards inclusion, inclusive advertising. James has done some different things for primary.com, came to Sonoma County and they were included, and one of our local boutiques, and he is like, loves the camera, he's the type where if he's in the middle of a giant fit, I can lift my camera up and he, and then I put the camera down and he continues to fit. So it's not helpful, but it's funny.
I love it. That is so fantastic. And, I swear it's just the best when divine intervention happens and you meet kind of your soul mom to walk this journey with. I'll tell you, I just moved a year ago and I didn't realize how important that was until I didn't have that. So I'm so happy for you guys that, you can walk this journey together, and what amazing kids you have. And it sounds like your school districts are super receptive, which is fantastic. I think that people just want to know more, they want someone to tell them honestly in a safe place what differences are. And spoken from a person who had zero experience with anyone with a disability until I was given my daughter Grace. And I love that you guys have education backgrounds. My whole family does. And so I often said to myself, how am I qualified to be this child's mom? You guys are totally qualified. And so those babies are to have you. But I just kind of moving forward on your mission and what you're doing. What do you hope comes out of this time spent in these assemblies?
Well, we really try and open ourselves up to be vulnerable to the kids. So after the assembly, so we talk about Down syndrome, we talk about autism, hearing loss, blindness. There's several other things we talk about through the assembly in this awesome book that we share. And then we go around to the classrooms, and actually before that, we actually go in and meet with the teachers before the assembly. And we tell them about the assembly, but then we also open ourselves up to any questions they may have. As a teacher, I knew nothing about having a kid with special needs. And so, I like to let them ask questions. Is your life difficult? What do we do when we come across someone who's different? And what's the best way to make a connection? And so we answer those questions. And then after the assemblies, we do the same thing for the students, and they ask amazing questions. I mean, one fifth grader asked us, did you have to find your new normal after having your children, And I mean, just the things that they feel comfortable asking, I think it starts that conversation, that much needed conversation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think in general, people, are eager to learn, and they, they do mean well, but I think there aren't many opportunities. I feel like when I go drop my daughter off, she just started at her school this year, fully included. And, and I can kind of sense that, like, okay, parents want to engage, but like, don't know how. So it's the same with the kids. And so if we can be the ones to just start that conversation and say, hey, you know what, it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to say hi to somebody, even if maybe they can't say hi back to you. It's okay maybe to feel a little bit uncomfortable and to feel like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing or saying the right thing, but at least I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to try and maybe follow your lead. And, and so our kind of big challenge is to be the one. And, so we challenge the kids to just be the one, to say hello, to introduce yourself. And I feel like that's the first step, that's just the first step. And it's amazing, after coming to my daughter's school, the response the next day, just walking through the hallway with her, and everybody that we passed by, the kids, the teachers, the parents, everybody stopped what they were doing and they looked her in the eye and said, oh, Annalise, how are you? And for the first time she was seen, and Yeah. And so we feel like, if we can just kind of, give them somewhere to start, there's just like that enter in point where, maybe you don't have somebody in your life with a disability, but you can be aware and you can be, available if you do come across somebody.
Yeah.
Right. And I think it's even bigger than that too. I tell my kids all the time, if you can walk into a room and have zero fear of another person, you're going to be so much further ahead of where, I personally started. And I'm so excited for their future because I, before Grace, lived in a lot of fear of saying the wrong thing, and so I would just not engage because I didn't want to, I didn't want to do the wrong thing. And so I think what you're providing is this platform for kids to learn about other kids that they might not necessarily see, because against what my mother says, most schools do not include the special education children, and some can't be included. So the general population doesn't always get that opportunity to interact with them. And so you coming into that school and opening the teachers' minds and the students' minds to differences are fine, and let's find a creative way to do things together in this safe learning place,
And it's connecting the kids too. We talk about the fact that we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, we all have things that we're really good at, and we all have things we work on, and we share our kids and the things that they're good at and the things that they're working on and why they're working on them, why speech is hard for people with Down syndrome or people with low muscle tone. And it makes more sense, once you understand it, it's not as scary. And that's the piece, that we have learned, is it's that fear, that initial fear you have when it's something that you don't understand, something that's foreign. And when you can get past that, then is when you can start to understand and lose that fear.
I agree. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but Changing the Face of Beauty has an educational program, and it is free. So if you guys ever wanted to integrate that into your conversation, it is my passion to see students, especially kids in college and high school, kind of have that aha moment of, oh my gosh, I never even realized that this community isn't seen in the most influential voice in the world. I believe so firmly that the advertising voice, it essentially tells us what to eat, what to drink, what to wear. It adds the value that we need for our kids and for the disability community. So I would love to see what you girls would do with something like that. And really, it's just kind of a challenge to see what the students can come up with. How can we come together creatively and create something that all students in the school are a part of?
Exactly.
I think most schools miss the mark on that. What does prom look like? What does homecoming look like? What does Pep Day look like? Are we including?
I think it's just that willingness to kind of, be creative and maybe shift how you look at things and how you do things. I think that's like, it feels like such a big boat to turn, and when you're looking at a school or a district and the way that all things have always been done. And I kind of come in and I see my daughter in her school, and they just did this color fun run where the kids run laps and the adults throw this like colored chalk at them and this colored paint, and they have such a blast. I know. And they play music, and and I was looking around, and and they have special day classes on campus, but they don't participate. And I thought, okay, I can understand some of those kids probably wouldn't enjoy that, but what about the ones that would, maybe in a different way? Maybe in a smaller way, and and how can we shift what we do to fit everybody and to include everybody? And so,
that's like one of the things we talk about when we go into the college classes is, the curb cutout analogy. Have you heard of it?
No.
So there, on sidewalks nowadays, you see the curb cutouts, which are meant for people in wheelchairs, right? But if you think about it, how many other people does it help? It helps moms with strollers. It helps skateboarders, bicyclists. It helps people pulling luggage. It helps all of these different people. And so if we can just make these little tweaks and shifts to help people who are different, who have different needs, make things more accessible to them, it will help so many others. I mean, I went into my son's TK, is going into TK next year, and his school is phenomenal that he's going to be going to the point where, like, I was talking about something. My son is still eating pureed foods. He has like some esophageal issues, and she interrupts me. She says, "Oh, you know, I just realized, like, it's going to be TK and all their birthdays are from August to, you know, December, and they all bring in treats. What are we going to do so that he doesn't feel left out?" I mean, to think about just that little piece, how incredible that feels. Or, you know, he's very small, so he needs a special table at snack time. And when I mentioned the fact that he couldn't sit on a bench because he eats pureed foods, that he will need like a little table, she's like, well, all the kids will want to sit with him, you know, at the table if that is, and then she was like, look, why don't we just get tables for everyone? Everybody would like that. And so it's just that quick little mind shift, you know, that can really make a difference and makes a whole family feel included. There's a little puppy.
Sorry. Aw, cutie. That's all right. We're all moms.
Just two moms, right?
Dogs too.
She's handing out snacks and dealing with the puppy, and
exactly. No worries at all. I agree 100%. You know, when I talk to companies and explain the value of speaking to us and to this enormous minority, I talk to them about just that. You know, these changes that you're making, you know, and it's a little bit different when you're talking business, but these changes that you're putting in place are actually for humanity. You know, any of us can be a part of this community at any given time. And I love how you're pointing out simple things in our environment that we see every day that might be there for the disability community, but actually help everyone else. So I think that if we get our mindset to how can we make this world a more inclusive world, as opposed to just segregating and focusing in on the community. Wow. I mean,
focusing on the strengths, focusing on what we have in common versus what we have that's different. And how cool is our world because we're all different, you know? I mean, I never would have thought to invent an airplane, but I can teach your kid how to multiply. And, you know, I mean, I've got my strengths, she's got her strengths, you've got your strengths. We all have things we're working on, and that's what makes the world awesome. And just because, you know, our kids walk around with a label above their head, you know, you explain that because you do such a great job of like talking about that. I love when she talks about this.
Well, when I talk to the kids about it, you know, I think like if I were to walk around with a label above my head and it's the, you know, the one, or, you know, one of the many things that are flaws in me, you know, mine would probably be forgetful. You know, I'd walk around and there's that forgetful mom, you know, she can't keep track of her kids or her shoes or her keys, you know, and you know, and then you miss out on the fact that I am a good mom and I am a, you know, a devoted wife, and I, you know, I do like to have fun and all, you know, all of the things that make me. I'm not just defined by one thing, you know, that we all have more than one story to tell, but it takes, you know, it takes a little bit more time, you know, it takes time to get to know what somebody else's story is.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, we're kind of a fast-paced society, and you know, we don't want to be interrupted. We don't want, you know, and sometimes it's going to take being interrupted. Sometimes it's going to take, you know, having to learn or having to, you know, feel like change, you know, something about how we speak or, you know, how we view people or whatever, you know, that it's going to take some adjustments, and that's okay, you know.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. And, you know, I have to ask, so what do you think? Obviously, we've had some changes in advertising. We've seen more representation of the largest minority in the world, the disability community. I have to throw that in there because it's a fact.
Absolutely.
So what do you, I guess let's start personally. How does that make you and your family feel that you are seeing more representation, and maybe give me kind of an idea of where you saw it the first time and how it felt.
You know, the first time that I saw it was a Target ad, and seeing that little girl with Down syndrome in their ad, it just, I don't know, opened up something inside of me that I hadn't felt before, because it just felt good. And it makes me want to purchase from companies that care about all of its people. And I have heard that time and time again. You know, anytime there's an advertisement out there, I can't tell you how many times I get tagged in it, or people share it with me, and share it on their Facebook pages. I mean, it helps the company, you know, tremendously. And at some point, I think it will just become the norm, which will be great. And it won't be this big thing, but currently right now it's just such a great movement, and that's why we love what you do, you know, getting that word out there and spreading the word about the fact that we all use all of these things, you know, and our kids are darn cute. So you know, I mean, get out there and do it.
Yeah, I think for me as well, I would say the Target ads, but then also when Annalise was first born is when that show Born This Way came out. And, you know, and of course that was like the big buzz, like, oh my gosh, there's actually a show, you know, that like features, they're the stars of the show, you know, and the fact that they have, you know, won, I think, some awards, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think it did kind of, I don't know, it gave us some hope that like, hey, things are going in the right direction, you know, that the more that our kids and kids of all different abilities and who look different and all of that are represented, then it's not going to be as big of a deal, and it's not going to be such a shock when they are out in the community or when they're working, you know, at a job that, you know, okay, it's not going to be a big thing. Like, yeah. They are a part of our community, and they're a vital part of our community. And and we always get so excited. I mean, we have like this radar, you know, like if we're out in the store and we see someone, or we're, you know, flipping through a magazine, oh my gosh, you know, like, I mean, it's easy to spot Down syndrome for us. But yeah, it's encouraging and it's exciting. Yeah.
That's awesome. I agree. I go back to the moment that I was told I had a prenatal diagnosis, and the moment that I was told that my unborn child would have Down syndrome, the only thing that I could see was Lauren Potter in Glee and Chris Burke on Life Goes On. That's all I had, you know?
Yeah.
And I just remember sitting there, and my husband was like, what did they just say? And I couldn't even verbalize, because that's all I could see. And I think, gosh, how blessed am I? Because to be able to visualize two very successful people was pretty awesome. And I'm great friends with Gail Williamson, and she has had a ton of impact on Hollywood and making actors and actresses with disability available to producers. And, you know, I told her, like, I mean, how amazing is that? You know, you were a part of that for me. Her son is an adult. I think he's probably in his 30s, maybe late 30s. And, you know, obviously my daughter's 9, so it's a whole other generation. So we are so blessed that we can see what's possible.
We've come at a great time, and we are so thankful to those who've come before us and paved that way. I mean, how lucky are we, really?
Well, I mean, you think about, you know, we put ourselves out there, we put our kids out there, you know, and it's one of those things like showing up to a birthday party, you know, have that little feeling inside, like, how is she going to be received? You know, like, how's she going to be looked at? You know, but it's like constantly like, nope, but we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going forward. We're going to keep, you know, putting them out there. And I think just knowing that there are, you know, people that did that when there was no one around.
Yeah.
You know, like we actually are coming in, and the way has kind of been paved. And, you know, even though it's still a little bit scary and it's still a little bit uncomfortable, it's so much easier for us now to just say, no, here we are. We're not going to be ashamed of her. We're going to, celebrate her and every individual with a disability and a difference, and show everybody that, we have a lot to learn from them.
Right.
I agree.
And they're just our kids. They're just our kids, just like they're your, I mean, we, being a teacher and having kids with disabilities in my class, you always, I would look at them as like, oh, this is their life. Like, this is the life almost that they chose or something, like you don't truly understand the fact that like, I never had this in my plan, right? I did all the things I was supposed to do, nothing I shouldn't, yet I still have a child who's different. And, it's a hard thing to grasp and whatnot. But at the same time, I mean, it's such an incredible journey. And these kids are just kids. I mean, James just wants to make jokes and make people laugh and smile for the camera. He's just a boy,
Absolutely. And I have to tell you a story of one of our partners, Matilda Jane. They put out a lookbook every single month. And the response after they started including was from, mothers that didn't have a child with a difference. They were actually reaching out and thanking Matilda Jane for giving them the opportunity to have safe conversations at home with their daughter about differences, which, wow, I was a puddle of tears. I'm like, well, didn't expect that, but that's the purpose, right? Kids have their face in the screens. They have their face in the lookbook of Matilda Jane. These are where they find value. And the more that we can get the disability community a part of that, the more we can kind of, desensitize these fears we have of differences. But what you're doing is the same exact thing. I want you to know that. So you've impacted 6,000 kids. Now, not all of them have got it, right? We know that. But I would say probably a good percentage of those kids went home to their parents who also fear the disability community and had a safe conversation about, what it means to be different. And maybe everything wasn't solved, but I really believe that what you're doing is planting those seeds in families that, haven't been exposed yet, or maybe have been exposed and like me felt uncomfortable, that you're opening their hearts and their minds to, more accepting.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we send a letter home too afterwards with how to answer certain questions, the most common questions, how do you respond to somebody who's nonverbal? How do you, what does it mean to be the one, our kids with Down syndrome, are they contagious? Those kinds of things that parents don't know the answer to, because if you don't have someone with Down syndrome in your life, like you don't know about it, and
yeah, I've had a few parents, I sent out a letter to Annalise's class, just because I felt like there was a lot of hesitation and a lot of apprehension there. And so kind of the same thing, just introduced her. And then here are some questions your kids might have and how to answer them. And I had several parents come up to me and just thank me, like, what, I was doing my daughter a disservice because I was just like, oh, no, don't, everybody, we're all different and it's fine. But it doesn't answer their questions. But why? Why is she so small? Why does she talk a little differently? And then once you answer those questions, and as long as you're not like, oh, well, it's because she has Down syndrome and it's so sad, but if you're just like, well, she, if we're just matter of fact about it, she has Down syndrome. And you know what? It takes her a little bit longer to learn how to speak and her muscles are weaker. And they're like, okay, let's go play, like, boom, we're done. And I think the parents appreciated how to go about it, and it gave, kind of reduced their anxiety of like, okay, yeah, it isn't such a big deal. I can be honest with them,
Absolutely. So I have to ask, what are your long-term goals for Just Two Moms? Do you want to travel? Are you, and essentially, what do you hope, at the end of the day, all of this work that you're doing, what are your aspirations? What do you hope this achieves?
Well, I am currently 7 months pregnant, so at this moment,
Getting ready for baby.
we're getting ready for baby. But you know, eventually, we would love to spread this word as far as we can. You know, our kids are still young, so we're still just kind of in the figuring out phases of how to get the word out there. We've done a couple virtual assemblies, and so we're waiting to hear how those go. We're just kind of trying new things out. I mean, we've actually only done this for a year now, and just started our assemblies in October or November.
Yeah.
And so we haven't been, you know, we were doing class by class before that. And so we also want to create like a space for everyone to, you know, we want to gather our people, and we created a Just Two Moms Common Ground meetup where we had, we basically threw it out to the community. Anybody who has a kid with special needs want to come meet and just connect. And then we invited a bunch of professionals, like there was some OTs there, OT, speech and language, there was behaviorists, just anybody in the community who wanted to start a community of support for one another, because there's so much to learn out there, so much paperwork, so much to know. And if we can, you know, create a support network for one another, and, you know, along with the education piece, that's our big goal.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're just kind of taking it one day at a time at this point. You know, obviously we do want to reach as many kids and as many families as we can, whatever that looks like. I mean, I don't foresee traveling a whole lot, you know, at least at this point, you know, with our kids being so young. But yeah, I think that, you know, just creating that community is huge. I think that was something that for us, we had an incredible organization called Club 21 down in LA that was kind of our, you know, that was our lifeline. And, you know, that's where I met other moms that we were kind of in a similar stage, and I, you know, could ask questions and I could cry to, and we could celebrate together, and just all those things, you know, that really make this journey so much more doable and so much more fun along the way, you know, even with the bumps in the road. So yeah, you know, we're excited to see, you know, to see what's to come.
Yeah.
Awesome. And where can everyone find you? So if there are people around the country or world who want to do what you're doing, you know, how do they find you or reach out to you, or can they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. We've shared our presentation with a couple different people who have done it in various areas, of course, changing it to fit their stories. But we're on Facebook at Just Two Moms, and it's all words. And then on Instagram at Just Two Moms SR at the end for Santa Rosa. And reach out and message us, and we'd love to help you. I mean, in any way, be it support, be it, you know, showing you the book that we use, or how we talk to the classes.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, yeah, we feel like, you know, each individual family is planted and placed somewhere else, you know, that they can be an influence in their district and in their school. And I mean, honestly, like, speaking in front of people is not my favorite thing at all, you know.
That's great.
But you know, like we have a lot of parents say, "Oh, I you know, I wish I could do what you do." And we're like, "No, you can." And you know, and it's actually like a cool responsibility to have as a parent of a child with special needs, because you get to be the person who can bring it up. You know, like, it's hard for other people to bring up that topic and that conversation, and you know, and so there are, yeah, we're happy to share tips and kind of how we go about it and how we approach it, you know, just so other parents can do the same thing, you know, in their schools. Yeah.
Agreed. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing your mission. I think you guys are doing great work. I love that you are impacting the future.
Thank you so much.
Because the future is going to be bright, you know. I say it all the time. The face of the disability community is changing because we know more, we do more.
That pendulum is swinging in the right direction right now.
That's right. So good work. Good work.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for everything you do to get the word out there. You know, it's really awesome seeing all of these different companies and people come together to create an inclusive society. It's so hard, you know, There's a word in there. Refreshing.
Refreshing.
That's the pregnancy. I'm usually pretty good at public speaking, but ever since the baby, you know, I lose the words often.
Pregnancy mind. I know. I get it.
All right.